Hello everyone, today I wanted to talk about side-scroller games and how to make them feel like they have a bit more depth. I had a interesting comment asking about them, so I went ahead and designed this entire little level just for that, to kind of explain a couple of different ways that you can go about making a level feel like it has more depth. So let's go ahead and run through it. Alright, so if we look here, we see the character spawns right here. And as we move across, there's something in the foreground, and that's the other wall to the building. So this allows us to have breakpoints in there, and that'll really separate the foreground, middle ground, and background, and allow us to actually feel the depth of the area. So we can also, as we're going across, we also notice that there's multiple pathways, and each one has a little bit of detail to distinct them from the area the character sat at. And this will allow us to really get a nice depth going instead of just it being a wall back there with the black areas. And then we come across here and there's a little wall that's in the way. So when we come across here, the wall separates the two rooms and the player actually goes through it. That actually brings the foreground into play without blocking off too much. Of course, the wall would normally be a bit thinner, but because I use the baseline size of the cube grid, it adds a bit more thickness. But if we look here, we can see the light going across the player, and that adds depth even on the side scroll plane that sometimes you lose when you're playing a game like this or designing them. So keeping track of the location of your lights on top of just how deep down they're placed and everything is important, because you want to play with those shadows to really help sell the depth. If we see right here, that light doesn't just start right there. It hits that wall and casts the shadow going towards the camera. So not only does it guide the player to see that there's a background light right there, the light color changes to add a bit more atmosphere and feel to it, but it also adds into the foreground a bit more, so that way we can actually see that depth come across. And when the player hits there, their shadow gets casted towards the camera as well. So that really plays with that depth really well and allows us to get that feeling of the depth really going on. So another thing is when we're going across here, we come across another little spot right here where it's an elevator. So it comes in here, and this room feels detached from the rest of the entire level, and that's by design. This is our little elevator area. So when we step out here, it feels we get access to that new room. We come in here, we can have a loading screen if we really wanted to. I actually have it set up to work to where it lifts up and actually moves along. And this gives us that sense of, okay, so we're in a small room right now. We're in that elevator. It's lit up just slightly. And this gives the player a whole new feel of what's going on and kind of tells them that they've hit a progression point. So we get over here, we step out, we get that light that's now closer instead of the other one that was kind of flattening out along the area. And this helps paint the character into along the back. It puts their shadow against that wall there, and it defines the background depth. So as we go over here, now we've got little models that are getting closer to the camera instead of just going farther away, and they don't block off a lot of screen. So now we've got an area that has a bit of design going on. The lighting is set up to really show the area off, on top of the fact that these get closer to the camera and further away. So you really discern that depth as it gets farther away from the character. As you can see, the close one moves faster than the ones in the farther back. And so that's allowing you to really tell how close the character is and how close the tables are and the farther back tables are. And all that is placing them closer. The closer something is to the camera, the faster it will seem to move, even though it's not actually moving faster. It's just closer. So yeah, I've even got doors in the background to really sell. They're not actual doors, but they're cues to signify doors, to kind of sell like there's more areas to this building than what we're going through. To kind of signify like, okay, it's not just this flat area. There's not one hallway. There's multiple paths. So as we come over here, we get to that next room and it opens up and we get another door slot that comes towards the camera. After you've been playing for a little while, they kind of blend in, but as you're in there, it really helps kind of immerse the player and sell that depth difference. Then we go over here and the ceiling's different as it leads down that path right there, allowing for a bit more of a unique design in here. So yeah, that's the whole little game thing that I set up on here. It's not a crazy amount, but it shows the different little intricate details you can do in a 2D level that will really sell the depth of a game. There's far more you can do, like having a character that's walking in the background come over and go through one of the doors. That alone will sell that background tremendously. If you have enemies that spawn in, have them come through the door and then have them play an animation where they run through the door and then have them take over as an AI right there. So that way they're not just stagnant always on screen, but you can actually see them run down from over here. So like if I'm playing an action game and a character's running down here and the player goes by, it would be very immersive and it shows that depth to have that character run through and then take their place on the side scroll plane before starting the fight. And if you really wanted to, you could take it a step further, and as they're running through, if they're directly in front of the AI, have them able to shoot at the player. So that way the player realizes, okay, so I can't just stand right there. I gotta move. And then once the AI gets out here, they move over and blend into that playing field. That all those little details are going to help sell the 2D environment far more than you would think. And you could do a few other things like try and get the sunlight to come through on here. But yeah, I felt like this was a great little demonstration on how to get a 2D game, a side-scroller game, to feel a lot more depth. Because like I said, right here we've got that balanced light. The light's directly above the player, which is fine, but it doesn't sell that background very well. So as we saw upstairs, all it takes for this to feel far more depth is just to slide these lights a tick over. And we can even delete the ones right here. We don't really need them. And now when we hit play, the player's shadow is now casted on that wall, and that will separate them from the background. That alone, you can see the difference it just made. One thing I'd like to say is make little rooms. You don't have to have fully detailed areas where you can't see, but at least making it to where the spots you can see do have detail, because it's important to be able to actually see the areas are alive. So if I really want to take this spot and make it a bit more lively, I could add in a cylinder and kind of create a little pipe system right here. Like, yeah, it's not necessary for mechanics wise, but that slight bit of work towards the immersion will be noticed by some players. And if we just play right here, you come across, it works really well. Like that alone adds a bit more to the scene. And it plays with those shadows really nicely. And then we can actually take this another way and actually bring out areas like this, like a little pillar right here. Some design buildings have pillars inside of them. So if you take a small little pillar that doesn't take up too much screen, it doesn't block off a whole lot of their view. So yeah, if the player stops right there, it can cause a little bit of a blind spot, but it adds to that depth. So be careful with it, because like I said, you can go overboard real fast, but it's a very, very helpful tool. So yeah, I hope you all learned a lot from this video. Like, I'm sorry that it's not a incredibly long video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed it, please consider hitting like. If you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe. I try and post them every 2 days. And yeah, I hope you all have good luck game developing.